Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're pulling the shell off the radio-controlled vehicle hobby, looking underneath at the environmental side. Our mission is pretty straightforward. We really want to understand the complete environmental footprint of RC, from digging stuff out of the ground all the way to the scrap heap, and figure out what actually works, what choices you can make to, well, green up your pit area a bit.
Yeah, and I think the place we have to start is this idea of the unseen footprint. It's
Yeah.
this significant environmental cost that's already baked into the vehicle before you even run it once. All that mining, the manufacturing, that's a debt that's already there. That's really our starting line for thinking about sustainability here.
Okay, right. So let's unpack that. How about we tackle the big debate first? Electric versus nitro. At a glance, electric running on LiPo batteries, lithium polymer, it seems like the obvious clean choice.
Yeah.
But looking at that whole life cycle, that initial debt you mentioned, it comes to pretty quick, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. While it's true, LiPo cars have zero operational emissions right where you run them, the upstream cost, it's intense. Lithium extraction itself, especially from those brine pools and really dry areas, uses just vast amounts of water. We're talking something like 2.2 million liters for every ton of lithium. That's a lot of water.
Wow, okay.
And maybe even more critically, how clean your charging is depends entirely on your local power grid. Is it coal? Is it renewables? That makes a huge difference.
Right. And then the nitro side, that's
Yeah.
more of a continuous localized impact. These little unregulated engines, they're basically dumping pollutants right there on the track or in the park. Things like nitrogen oxides, NOx, and carbon monoxide, CO2is, the usual smog stuff.
But wait, you mentioned something else. Beyond just the exhaust fumes, corrosive nitric acid vapor.
Exactly. It's a byproduct of that high-temperature combustion in the presence of nitrogen from the air. It's pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And since many run rich or use oil in the fuel, they often spit out unburnt lubricating oil directly onto the ground. So you get soil contamination too. Okay, so you've got this choice. Big upfront environmental costs with electric versus this ongoing localized pollution with nitro.
Precisely. And faced with that, maybe the biggest environmental gain isn't actually which power source you choose initially, it's longevity, making the whole vehicle, and especially its components, last as long as humanly possible.
Longevity. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Every repair you do, every part you save, it kind of amortizes that initial manufacturing cost over a longer time.
Exactly right. You're spreading that initial environmental debt.
So if keeping parts running is key, that brings up the materials themselves. We run into this plastic paradox, right? These amazing plastics, nylon composites, those tough polycarbonate or Lexan bodies, they're engineered for incredible durability. They can survive insane abuse.
They really can. And think RPM parts, they're legendary for toughness. But the paradox is, because they're such specialized durable polymers, your standard municipal recycling, they just can't handle them. They end up in landfill.
I know what you mean. I remember cracking a Lexan body years back,
Yeah.
if I'd known then about reinforcing it.
Yeah. And that's the key. Since recycling is mostly a no-go for these specific plastics, the hobby really has to lean into a culture of repair. Using those classic hobbyist tricks. Flexible glues like shoe goo or E6000, maybe some drywall tape on the inside of a cracked body. You can make them last almost forever.
Makes sense. Keep it running. But inevitably, some things do reach their end of life, and some of those things are genuinely hazardous. We absolutely have to talk about LiPo batteries here.
Yes, this is probably the single most critical piece of EOL management in the whole hobby. LiPos are hazardous waste, full stop. The fire risk is real, and they contain toxic materials. They must never, ever go into your household trash or your curbside recycling bin. Never.
So what's the right way?
The non-negotiable process for safety is you have to discharge them completely, down to 0 volts. This removes the stored energy that can cause fires during transport or processing.
0 volts. Got it. And then?
Then they need to go to a certified battery recycler. Places like Call to Recycle often have drop-off points, or to your local household hazardous waste or HHW facility.
Okay. And what about other stuff like leftover nitro fuel?
Same deal. Used nitro fuel is hazardous. It needs to go to an HHW facility. Don't pour it down the drain or on the ground. And all the electronic CSCs, servos, receivers, motors, that's all e-waste. It needs special collection, just like old computers or phones.
Right. But the metal parts, chassis, drive shafts, suspension arms.
Well, that's the good news. Metal parts are highly recyclable. Once you strip everything else off, you can take them to a scrap metal dealer. Easy win there.
So when you step back and look at all this, it feels like being environmentally responsible in RC is really just, well, an extension of the skills we already value, right?
Right.
The technical know-how, the problem solving, the attention to detail.
I think that's exactly right. It's about being smart and meticulous about your inputs, your maintenance, and yeah, your outputs and waste too.
So here's maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. We appreciate when manufacturers like Traxxas or Arma build durable stuff with good part support. That definitely helps longevity. But the RC industry as a whole, it's not exactly leading the charge on, say, corporate transparency with environmental reports. Maybe the community, all of us together, has some power here. Power to ask for more. Ask for sustainability reports. Ask manufacturers to maybe explore product take-back programs, especially for those tricky plastics and electronics. Just some food for thought for your next wrenching session. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.